One of the things that I found was crazy is that there's 1,240 species of bats. To put it in perspective, there are only 5,450 species of mammals. So 23% of all mammal species are bats. Which means, if you look at all the different types of bats, you can put together the best crew to commit crimes. We gotta commit crimes when we train the animals.
What was the last crime we committed? I don't even remember. It was a while ago.
Snakes? Snake crimes?
Snakes, that was a long time ago.
I mean,
definitely robbed a bank with snakes.
Crimes in general, non-animal related, would be the Louvre, right?
Oh, yeah, but that was a crime episode.
Yeah.
It was a whole episode of crime. Anywho, I made a crime. And kind of what inspired this crime was and I'm going to put them, I'm going to give each of my bats a fun nickname for their role. The Sticky Fingers is going to be the Bumblebee Bat, or the Kitty's Hog-Nosed Bat. This one is cool because this bat is the smallest mammal of all of them. It is 1.1 inches long and weighs 2 grams. It's like the size of like one segment of your finger is the size of this bat. And it's fracking adorable.
That's pretty adorable. Just imagining it in my head.
Yeah, and also if you look online, they're very cute pictures. So if you need a little smile in this bat plague.
It's pretty rare, because when you imagine a bat, you don't imagine adorable.
I mean, bats really get a bad rap, though, because they are frequently very cute.
There are some fugly bats, though.
Well, okay. but like a lot of them are pretty cute, right?
Yeah, they can be cuddly.
Yeah.
The problem is they're just known for like shitting a lot and eating bugs.
I mean, the eating bugs. Okay, you know what? Anyway, I'm not going to argue for bats anymore.
They have a bad rap. There are some very cute bats. But anyways, the Bumblebee Bat is the smallest bat. And what's perfect about the little Bumblebee Bat is that it's like the master infiltrator because it's so small and it can fly. It can just go wherever the hell it wants. So the negative of a tiny, tiny bat is that it can't really carry much. So I went to look into how much could this small little bat carry. And there was no good pre-existing math for how much bats carry, especially very tiny ones. But one fact I found a few places is that generally when bats go out hunting, they can eat up to their body weight in insects and still fly around. So at the very least, if they haven't eaten that day, they can carry their own body weight and still fly.
Which is not a lot.
Right. It is. They weigh 2 grams, so they do not have a lot of body weight. So I went to look at the most valuable materials by weight, and after ticking off the synthetic ones and the radioactive ones, surprisingly, the most valuable one is diamonds. Shock and aplomb. So the weight of diamonds is measured in carats. Each carat is about 0.2 grams. So the average diamond ring is about 1 to 1.2 carats. And so that's only 0.2 grams each for each little diamond. And our bat weighs 2 grams. So our average Bumblebee bat can carry 9 carats worth. A 1 carat diamond is worth anywhere between $2,500 and $16,000, depending on all the other qualities of the diamond, like its sheen and how it's cut and all the other nonsense that they care about but nobody else does. But even taking the minimum amount, like the worst versions of these carat diamonds, $2,500 per carat, a single Bumblebee bat can carry $22,000 worth of diamonds.
Wow,
pretty good.
So that's awesome. They can just go in there and grab all these diamonds. But of course, you're going to need a little bit of help. The first thing is that the diamonds are going to be, usually in a locked case. So we're going to need the next part of our crew, who I've nicknamed the Lockpick. And that is going to be our friend, the Nectar Bat. The Nectar Bat also holds a record among animals in that it, compared to its body size, it has the longest tongue. So basically, these bats actually don't feed on insects. They feed on as the name implies, nectar of flowers, and they're like the long tubey flowers. So almost like the hummingbirds that have the really long tongue too, that like shoots out the proboscis and goes into the flower and sucks that up. But just to put this into scale, the nectar bat is 2.3 inches long. So not a big bat, also good for infiltrating. The bat is 2.3 inches long. The tongue, when extended, is 3.4 inches long.
Is it one of those weird ones that curls up on the inside?
No, actually. So the article I was reading was about the scientist who was like, I was wondering how their tongues were so long. So they had one, and they had it in the lab, and they were testing, they were looking at how long the tongue was by training it to suck out of a clear tube that was a flower. And so they have a nice side profile of the tongue extended, and it was creepy. But basically, the base of the tongue is between the bat's heart and sternum. So imagine like your tongue would go down to like mid-chest level.
Oh no.
And then all the way up to your mouth. And then when the tongue extends, it extends out to triple its original length.
I don't like that.
I'm unhappy about this.
So we've had arguments of this before about whether putting literally anything that's long and skinny into a lock would let you pick the lock, but it is a pretty thin and narrow tongue. And I imagine they have some amount of control over it. You might be able to get the pins in the right spots to, then unlock the lock. This is probably the biggest stretch in the plan, this nectar bat.
Was that a pun? That the very long tongue is the biggest stretch in the plan?
No, but it is now.
Hey, we got there. And yes, it is a stretch, but continue.
So we have the lockpick, we have the sticky fingers. The next thing we're going to need, which I didn't think I was going to need until I was doing a little bit more research, is we're going to need the muscle. Because it turns out most bats can't walk. So the way like bat wings have evolved, the way bats have evolved is that their legs have kind of become the bottom part of their wings. And so they basically spend their entire lives either hanging upside down or in flight. They effectively never go onto the ground. And there's a couple reasons. One, they're trash at walking. They can climb just fine. They'll have little, pointy claws and fingers. So on the cave walls and tree bark, they can climb no problem. But on just flat ground, they're no good. And two, bats can't actually take off from the ground. The amount of energy to actually generate that first bit of lift is too much for how bats are built. So really what happens is that the way bats, initiate flight is they can sustain flight and they can, gain altitude and however they need to get around. But they actually need to drop a few feet to gain any, flight at all. But you're good. But the main point is that they're not good at walking. So really you're going to need some bat in there that can walk to kind of just like open the panels and just move shit around, just something to be on the flat.
Wait, so if a bat just accidentally falls onto the ground just because something happened, then they're just dead? They can't do anything about it?
So when they can't, when I say they can't walk, they're extra super trash at they can crawl along the ground, but they're extra super bad at it.
Right, but they still need that height to get the flight. So how do they get that height?
Generally, they would climb a tree. They can climb a tree bark with their claws, and then go a few feet up the tree, and then use that to get up off the ground again.
Okay.
But I need something a little bit more maneuverable on the ground, and there are actually just two bat species that do this. One is the New Zealand short-tailed bat, which evolved to keep its legs because New Zealand is so isolated and free of bigger predators that they just never, they're just fine walking around. They don't have to worry about things eating them like bats everywhere else. And then the second one, which is the one I'm using, is the common vampire bat, who has evolved to walk on the ground because it wants to be extra stealthy when it goes up to, as the name implies, livestock and then sucks their blood. So I didn't actually realize that the vampire bat literally is a blood-sucking bat. It literally will go up to a cow or a horse or whatever, and then its nose is sensitive to heat, so it can find blood vessels, and then it just bites it and then has its fancy tongue and non-coagulants and sucks the blood out of the animal and just totally gorges itself. It's kind of gross.
It's pretty gross.
I imagine they were called vampire bats before the story vampires, right?
Yeah, I figured it was vampires were named after vampire bat. Oh, well, hold on.
Or was it the other way around?
That's probably the way around, right?
Who knows? I don't know when the vampire mythos was established and when the vampire bat was named. Probably the bat was named after, probably the scientific community got its shit together to name bats after vampire mythos existed.
So, vampire bats were first officially described in scientific literature in 1810 and documented by Darwin in 1839, but it was the 1897 release of Bram Stoker's Dracula that solidified a relationship between vampires and bats. But vampires existed in folklore before that.
So vampires existed, but they didn't have anything to do with bats?
I think so.
Yeah, if you a lot of the old folklore type creatures have totally different backstories. Like I know elves are crazy different, fairies are crazy different, leprechauns are crazy different, and usually a lot more, deadly in the in the old folklores. Usually they're punishing you ironically for doing anything that's not like raising crops and staying inside.
Vampire bats were integrated into vampire folklore after they were discovered on the South American mainland in the 16th century. So apparently there was a link starting then, but like obviously vampires have been part of folklore for a lot longer than that.
Interesting. I would have thought it'd be the other way around, but I guess not.
So this bat's gonna be pretty good for walking around. It can go pretty fast actually. It can like do like a little a sprint. It was described by the biologist studying it as front wheel drive for version of running because like the top, obviously the forelimbs are the stronger ones. I also love that they basically tested the bat's ability to walk by just putting them on a treadmill and just increasing the pace until they couldn't.
That's so mean.
But yeah, so we have our vampire bat is gonna do all the like lifting things up and opening panels and whatever else little things it needs to do while they're kind of there for support. So now you have all these tiny little bats, all of our good old Bumblebee bats with all the diamonds. They've escaped out the ventilation shafts. And the last category bat we're gonna need, who I have nicknamed the getaway car, is we're gonna use the Brazilian free-tailed bat. This bat's a bit bigger than the Bumblebee bat. Bumblebee bat again was 2 grams and 1.1 inches long. This one is 12 grams and 3.5 inches long, but it does have a 12 to 14 inch wingspan. So it is a bit bigger. It's not the biggest bat around, but there's a very specific reason that I want to use this one, and that is because the Brazilian free-tailed bat is the fastest animal when you look at horizontal flight, which basically makes it the fastest animal. The Brazilian free-tailed bat can fly at speeds of 100 miles an hour.
What?
100 miles an hour. The fastest bird is the common swift, I think it is, can reach speeds of like 70. This is 30 miles an hour faster than that.
Just to like reiterate for people in case they missed this point, this was like horizontal flight, not in a dive or something, but just like powered flight flying forwards.
Yeah, like ground speed. The ground speed is 100 miles an hour. Like the researchers doing this literally tested it, assumed that their instrumentation was broken, tried to follow the bats, and then when they realized they couldn't keep up with the bats, was like, whoa.
Whoa, that's fast.
So your Brazilian free-tailed bat weighs 12 grams, theoretically could then carry 12 grams. So each of your Brazilian bats can carry 6 of your Bumblebee bats. So you don't even need that many of these to kind of just clean out a good old diamond store. And the last part of it, I was worried that this was just like, oh, this is, its burst speed. Like it sprints like this for, 20 feet and then is tired and then like, collapses. So I was kind of looking to see if I could get the range on the free-tailed bat. How big of a range do you think it is? And by the range I found was how far out from their cave they'll go searching for food in a night.
250 miles.
Less than that. I'll say 10 miles.
These bats will go distances of 150 miles from their cave in a night and back just to hunt. So if you are, say, a police officer and you see, and you're, I guess, watching, maybe this is the third one, so that you've seen the bats, you're ready for them, you see the bats, you're like, I'm gonna follow these bats and catch this criminal. Bat zips away. And now you're like, well, I'm just gonna find the person in town who has a lot of bats. How big is your search radius gonna be? You're not gonna pick 150 miles. Like, you're not gonna put your inspectors and investigators like halfway to frickin' Connecticut to try to find the robber who stole the shit from Boston. So not only is they're making a clean getaway, because 100 miles an hour, you can't even keep up. If you have a police car, you can't keep up. Never mind that the bat gets to fly straight as opposed to following roads and things. So kudos to the Brazilian free-tailed bat. #1 getaway car. You're going to be rich, lots of diamonds, lots of cute little bats.
That was a clip from Absurd Hypotheticals, the podcast where we answer dumb hypothetical questions. For the full episode, click on the link in the description.